Vi har ju sett honom i Red Dwarf, Lucifer, 24, Aquaman och han är förutom Stallone den enda skådespelaren som medverkar till både Rambo och Creed. Men vi känner honom troligen bäst som Dougal MacKenzie i Outlander eller Dwalin i The Hobbit. So, ladies and gentlemen, with a big warm applause, please welcome Graham James McTavish!
Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Wow. Hello. Wow. Who said that? Who said hello there? It's always one, isn't there, at the back? Very good. Very good. Right.
Yeah, I just told the audience that they can raise a hand if they have any questions. Otherwise, I just continue with my own questions.
Sure. Yeah. No problem. I'll answer whatever you like.
Yeah. Well, let's take it from the beginning because you have done a lot of different things in film and TV, but you have never ever took a drama class. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, he has absolutely no training whatsoever. No, I did not do a drama class. No, I went to university basically, and I did a lot of acting when I was at university. Shakespeare mainly, Jacobean drama, that kind of thing. And I was just very, very fortunate that the professor of English that I had, a wonderful guy called Nigel Alexander, he introduced me really to Shakespeare properly, and that's where I began. And Nigel was an extraordinary man. He's probably one of the few people that I could definitely say was a genius, like a real genius. Terrible drinker though, terrible. I mean, he really did drink a lot. And I remember I was rehearsing with him. I was doing a play. I can't remember the name of the play. But he had these First World War bayonets, like real ones, from the war. They were huge. Like the blade was like that long. And they would never allow this now. We would actually do sword fights using them. And the stage was really not much bigger than this. It was a chapel, and we would perform in it. So we would perform in the round. The audience would be around us. And we would have these bayonets. And I don't know, The White Devil by Webster. There was all sorts of things where I had to do sword fights. And there was one day, I remember, and he was very, very passionate, Nigel, very passionate. And he had this bayonet, and he tripped. I mean, he just tripped, and I was like 20. So I laughed. People trip, you laugh. It's just what happens. And he didn't like it. And he came up to me, basically threatening me with this bayonet. And he used to talk like this. He had this incredibly kind of raspy voice. And excuse me for swearing, but there was a lot of swearing. You bastard, you're coming up with this bayonet. And I said, Nigel, put the bayonet down. And he went, yes, sorry. And he put it down, he goes, you know that I love you. And then he started hugging me. And that's what being directed by him was like. But that's how I learned acting, at the hands of a drunken lunatic, basically.
Isn't that worth an applause? Well, let's talk a bit about the Hobbit. I heard that you actually moved to New Zealand when making the Hobbit.
Yeah, we had to move to New Zealand. It was part of the contract, basically. I remember my last meeting that I had with Peter, Fran, and Philippa in Los Angeles. They said, look, this is going to involve you and your family moving to New Zealand. And I was up for that, totally. And we all moved. Everybody in that film who wasn't from New Zealand moved with their families. They sent them to school in New Zealand. And we went through the whole Hobbit experience like that. And I'm the only one who wasn't living in New Zealand already who now has a place in New Zealand. We stayed. And we just, because I loved it for my kids, so. Oh, there's R2-D2. Very good. He's always gate crashing stuff, isn't he? R2-D2. Yeah, yeah. He likes a drink. He does. Anyway, yes. So that's how I ended up in New Zealand.
And talking about your family, I know that you were not the only one from your family to participate in The Hobbit.
Correct. My eldest daughter, Honor, she was in the. Let me think. She was in the first and second ones. She was in the first one. She was credited as cute Hobbit. She was 4, and she was at the party with Gandalf at the beginning. I think it's at the beginning. And I was on a different unit. I was on second unit, and she was on main unit. And I heard from the main unit that they had trouble getting her on stage, getting her onto the set. She wouldn't come on. So literally, Ian McKellen, they were all there, Peter Jackson, they were all waiting for my 4-year-old daughter to appear out of her trailer, basically. She was just too shy, but I managed to get her out eventually. And then she was in The Desolation of Smaug as well. She was one of the Lake Town residents who was being terrorized by Smaug. She was actually very good. I watched that one. I watched her do it, and she was good. But she has no interest in acting. None. So, there you go.
And she haven't took any drama classes as well, I guess.
She did not do any drama classes, no. But she is still participating in her own musical that she's doing at school at the moment. So there you go.
Exactly. Totally worth an applause. Well, let's stay with The Hobbit for another question. And Dwalin has 2 axes engraved with the names. Yes. And I heard you had something to do with the entire story behind that. Yeah,
the axes, Weta Workshop made the axes, and the axes are really beautiful. And we do, before you start filming something, you do what's called a show and tell. And a show and tell is basically you get in the outfit, you get in the whole gear, all your costume, all the weapons, all the rest of it. And, oh, Doctor Strange, there he goes. You get in all the outfit, and then you show yourself to the director and the writers and the producers, and they decide, what works, what doesn't work, etc., etc. And I came on with my stuff with the axes, and I said, really just as an aside, I said, Emily Bronte had 2 dogs called Grasper and Keeper. And I've always remembered that because they're such extraordinary names. And I thought that Dwalin would be the kind of person that would name his weapons. And I just mentioned this. And they were making notes. And the next day, Richard Taylor of Weta came back with the axes, and they had engraved Grasper and Keeper in Dwarvish on the axes. And that was the kind of thing they used to do. I remember we had these huge chairs that we would sit in. They gave us these oversized chairs because they thought we were so massive that we wouldn't fit in normal chairs. Actually, we ended up not using them after a while because they were so huge. But anyway, mine, they were all the same, and we would sit there, and I just mentioned that I thought that my chair should be more like the throne from Conan the Barbarian. That I would just have this really, really massive throne. This was a joke. And the next day, they had made the chair into the throne from Conan the Barbarian. It was so much jealousy on the other dwarves. They were just, why haven't I got a throne? And they would carry the throne to wherever we were filming. And I would sit, I had skulls and, animal furs and all the rest of it, decorating it. And it was one of my regrets that I didn't hold on to that, actually. I'd love to have a throne at home. It'd be nice. Yeah.
Of course. Let's jump to another one of your projects called Outlander. And I heard that when you filmed Outlander in Scotland, you took the opportunity to trace down your own roots.
Oh, yeah. Well, I knew a lot about Scotland, obviously, but Outlander gave me the opportunity to learn a great deal more. And I became interested in my own family history. I knew some of it. Highland family history tends to kind of stop at a certain point because they didn't really keep accurate records in the Highland communities in the same way that they did in lowland communities. So in the lowlands, which is where my father's mother her family come from, we can go back to like the 16th century. But in the Highlands, it pretty much stops late 18th century. And before that, it's very, very difficult to find anything out. Partly because the people I'm related to were all basically just peasants. I mean, they were, they were illiterate. I have the marriage certificate of my great-great-grandmother who got married in 1870. And she just has an X next to her name because she couldn't read or write. And that's 1870, and my father was born in 1922. So 52 years later, he was born, and he went on to become an airline pilot. And it always reminds me that it's educational opportunity that denies people certain things rather than ability. So she was probably very smart, a very smart woman, but she was never given the opportunity to actually learn to read and write. So she marked her marriage certificate with an X, whereas my father went on to pilot planes. So it's something I've always remembered. Yeah.
Yeah. And while talking about writing, I know that you have wrote a book called Clanlands.
I have written 3 books. How dare you? Yes. Well, the third one technically hasn't come out yet. That comes out in November. Sam and I have written a third installment to our Clanlands series. This one is about our trip to New Zealand, which, if any of you have seen the second season of Men in Kilts, is basically a sort of legal deposition on my part for future prosecution of Sam for what he did to me on that journey. That's really what the book's about. Other people can find it entertaining, but really it's just for my lawyers so that they have it all written down. Yeah, the third book, that comes out November the 7th. The first one came out, I can't remember when, 3 or 4 years ago, and that was about our trip in Scotland. And then we did an almanac also about Scotland. I just became fascinated with Scottish history, and particularly clan feudal history. I mean, I don't know, it's probably the same in Sweden, I mean, different bands, different tribes that lived near each other. They were just constantly trying to kill each other in Scotland. I mean, they would find an argument over anything. And some of these feuds went on for 150 years. There was one that only stopped in 1975. And it had been going for hundreds of years. I mean, these people bear a grudge. There was one of the more famous ones that I particularly like. There were the Macintoshes, and I think it was Clan Chatton. They hated each other, right? They were constantly fighting. And the king, Robert II of Scotland, so I guess he would have been Robert the Bruce's son, maybe? Anyway, it was around the 13th century, 12th century. He decided to put an end to this feud. He was just like, all right, that's enough, that's enough. So he organized a pitched battle between 30 members of each clan to the death, right? He built a stadium. He actually built like seating, and he had a special platform for himself so they could watch. And they gathered the 30 people from each clan, and they arrived, axes, swords, whatever they could lay their hands on. And it took place just outside the city of Perth in Scotland. And the problem was that one of the clans were one man short. And this is a true story, I promise you. They came with only 29 men. Right, now the king, being very, very, very sort of fair, just said, well, we can't, I mean, this is just not fair. So we need another guy. So they went to the local pub. I promise you this is true. They went to the local pub and basically said, listen, lads, sorry about this. Having a pitched battle outside, having a bit of a stramash, bit of a fight. Anybody up for a fight? We're one man down. And the local blacksmith just basically probably put his pint down and just went, aye, okay, I'll come on. And so the blacksmith joined the side with one down, and they started the fight, right? They had a half time. Just like, let that sink in. They fought for whatever it was, 20 minutes, constant like butchery. And then they had a rest. They went and sat down. And they're like, oh, it's a bit mad out there, isn't it? Jesus Christ, you see what happened to Jimmy? that was horrible. His whole head came off. That was terrible. And, you know, I timed up, all right, got it, see you out there, okay. Get back up. They fight again. And then there's one man left on one side, and he jumps in the river and swims to safety. Of the other side, there are, I think, 8 people left, and one of them was the blacksmith. He survived. And he probably went back to the pub, picked up his pint, carried on drinking. Sorry about that, lad. Sorry I was away. Had something to take care of. You know, but I'm back now. Where were we? Yeah, true story. True story.
When we spoke last time, last spring, I think, you were sworn to secrecy due to the House of Dragons because it hasn't premiered yet. Last week, season 2 has wrapped production.
Yes.
Are you still sworn to secrecy, or can you tell us anything?
It's terrible. I can't talk about it at all, no. I mean, they're very strict. There's probably somebody here now, you know, watching with like a sniper scope, just in case I start talking. No, I can't talk about anything to do with that season. I can only really talk about what's already come out. So, sorry. Right.
And when we spoke last time, you had a project where you were researching some castles. And I'm curious, that project, was that something that happened in January this year?
Researching castles, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. No, that hasn't happened yet. No, but I will let you know when it does. Yes, no, that's something else, but hopefully it will happen. But it was great going to visit the castles, so, yeah.
And would you mind telling us what happened at the castle at January 6th this year?
Oh, well, that castle. Yes, I got married. Yes, I got married, yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I went a bit nuts, really, because my birthday is on January the 4th, so just please make a note in your diaries so that cards, anything, small gifts, doesn't need to be big, just, it's the thought that counts. January the 4th, and I'd already planned to have my birthday in this castle, and that was going to be 2 years previously, but because of COVID and all that stuff, it had to be put off. And then, you know, I met my wife, and I thought, why don't we have the wedding there as well? So I had my birthday on the 4th, and then the wedding on the 6th, and people arrived. So we were there for a week. It was nuts. It was nuts, but it was fantastic. And I organized, my wife won't mind me telling you this, I organized the entire thing. I literally became a wedding planner. Everything. The only thing she really organized was, she's Corsican, and she brought a Corsican band, these amazing singers from Corsica. Everything else down to me. So it was great. It was a beautiful, beautiful wedding.
And who did the seating cards? Did you do that as well?
The seating cards were done by my youngest daughter. Yes. No, she did all the seating cards. It took her ages, but she was very proud of them, and they went down very well. Thank you for reminding me of that, yeah.
And if you haven't seen them, Google it, because they are beautiful.
Oh, she'll be very pleased. Oh, nice.
And I'm also curious, let's stick with the wedding for a few questions, because is it true that you actually wear your mother's wedding ring during the ceremony?
I did. I wore it around my neck. Yes, how did you know that? My God. Were you there? Extraordinary. I don't remember you there. Yeah, I did. I did indeed. I had a necklace, and I wore my mother's wedding ring, which it's just so small. It's so small, and I'd forgotten how small how slim her fingers were, and yeah, I just wanted to have her sort of close when I got married. Yeah, so yeah.
And as a final wedding question, who actually came up with the idea of cutting the cake with a sword?
Yeah. Yes, I'm afraid it was my idea to cut the cake with the sword, which I managed to do, considering I have actually used swords a lot in shows that I've been in. I managed to make a complete mess of cutting the cake. It was so embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know how many of you have cut a cake with a sword. It looks easier than it is, okay? it's not that easy. So I nearly destroyed the cake, actually. But I got there in the end. Wow, you've done your research. Wow, impressive.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? Because our time is running up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah.
Who's got the... Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Can I have 2 questions?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you have one special reply from Outlander that you can say out loud?
A reply?
Yeah.
How do you mean?
No, something that is special from Outlander.
Like a phrase?
Yeah.
Like a saying, okay. Well, obviously, Tulakard, which is the Mackenzie war cry. Dougal MacKenzie practically wakes up every morning shouting Tulakard. It's how he gets ready for the day. Tulakard! And then he's ready. And now Alba Gubra, which is Gaelic for Scotland forever, is another favorite of mine. But in terms of lines, one of my favorite moments, I suppose, was with Katrina, where she accuses me of being a narcissist. You know, you love yourself and everything. And my response was along the lines of, it's true, I do love myself, but I love Scotland more. And I think that's just such a great line, because it's true. Both things are true. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And my other question is, me and my friends here, we're going to Edinburgh, and I wonder what your favorite pub in Edinburgh is.
Okay, favorite pubs in Edinburgh. The Blue Blazer, Kay's Bar, Clark's Bar, the Guildford Arms, and the Cafe Royal. So there you go.
Hi there, by the way. Big fan. I'm curious, if you could choose 3 franchises in pop culture, which of these would you like to star in? Whether that
that I haven't been involved.
Yeah, that
I haven't been involved in.
Right.
Oh gosh. So so pop culture franchises. I mean, an obvious one would be Star Wars. Yeah, because I grew up watching those films. I went on my 16th birthday to the original Star Wars, and it's, along with Alien and Jaws, they were the 3 biggest films in terms of their effect on me. Unforgettable. I went with a load of friends to the Odeon Leicester Square, and the moment when that ship at the beginning goes over your head, nobody had ever seen anything like that before. Nobody. So, those were the days where people used to shout out in the cinema if things got kind of scary. You know, like in Alien, when they were right at the end, everyone was shouting, "Kill it! Kill it!" You know, I mean, everybody was getting really upset. Same with Jaws, "Kill it!" You know. So Star Wars would probably be, without doubt, a universe that I would love to be involved in. That would be the one. Yeah.
And our final question from the audience before we wrap up.
Hi, gentlemen.
Hi, Graham.
Oh, sorry.
Hi. Oh, sorry.
Didn't see you there.
Is there any props you kept from, like...
Props?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes. I was given the axes from The Hobbit, and everyone was given their weapons, which was very nice. So I have those. I just need a gigantic fireplace to hang them above. That's the only thing. But I've got those. I have pistols from Preacher, 44 Walker Colts with the holsters and the spurs. I have Highland Broadsword and Dirk, Outlander. A lot of weapons. There's a pattern here. It's just, it's just things to bear in mind if anybody ever breaks into my house, that I have lots of weapons ready. My favorites are probably, to be honest with you, the broadsword and the dirk. I was also given Dougal's bonnet, his hat, plaid. Then there are the things that I stole. So mainly Smaug's gold. Smaug had a lot less gold after I'd visited. Jed Brophy and I, he said to me, listen, all the gold, there's so much gold, I'm just going to start taking it, and putting it in my boots, and then we'll divide it up at the end of the day. And I went, yeah, good plan, yeah, good. And so he would go on, and we'd be there, and he would just be like bending down to do something, and he'd just slip loads of things. And at the end of the day, he'd have like 20, 25 in each boot, 25 coins. And the thing was that Peter Jackson came up to him one day, and Peter sort of talks a little bit like that. It's kind of this sort of slightly nasal accent. And he came and said, listen, Jed, I know you're stealing. I know you're stealing the gold. But as long as I don't actually see you do it, you can keep it. And he never saw him take any. Jed was very, very good at stealing. So I have that collecting. I stole a couple of apples from Bayon's house, strange mushrooms from Mirkwood. They're all hanging around at home. And the main thing that I really love is that I've got every single nose worn by the dwarves, Gandalf, Bilbo's ears, and Weta. It came from Ken Stott, who played my brother. On rap, he hated wearing the prosthetic. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. I never talk like that. It was just like, you wouldn't treat a dog like it. I'd be very upset. Anyway, on rap, which is, if you don't know what rap is, it's when you finish filming for the day, he would just grab the nose and rip it off his face, right? Which is a really bad idea because it's glued to your face. So he would rip it off. And he started kind of collecting them, his noses. And I saw that and I went, that's interesting. And then, so after that, I went around and I asked for everybody to give me one of their noses. So on rap, I would get Philly's nose, which was ridiculously small. It was like a postage stamp compared with my massive conch that was on here. And I got everybody's. And then I went to Weta. Ian gave me his, got Martin's ears, all that. Went to Weta, and they mounted them in a glass display case, like a butterfly collection, with little writing underneath as to whose it was. And I have that at home. That's one of my proudest things. And I know we're running out of time. The only other thing that I kept was, there was the calendar, the dwarf calendar, which was like Sports Illustrated, but with dwarves. So we were all kind of naked in our muscle suits and fat suits. We'd all be, and we made this for Peter for his 50th birthday. And there's only 2 copies. There's his, and there's mine. Yes. And when we were doing the Dwarven chariot sequence in the 3rd movie, it was we were sitting there, me and Ken, and Peter came up with two scraps of paper, and he handed one to each of us. And he went, this is the next scene we're doing. And it was just this scrawl, this handwritten scrawl, right? And I said, did you write this? And he went, yeah. And I said, so this is now the script for The Hobbit? And he said, yep, it's the most expensive home movie ever made. And I went, okay, good. And I memorized the lines, and then I called over my makeup artist. We each had our own makeup artist. And I handed him the paper, and I said, I want you to take this and put it in a Ziploc bag and seal it and leave it in my dressing room. And he was like, why? And I said, that will pay for my daughter's education. That if ever I have to sell anything, that will do it. Because it's a handwritten script by Peter for The Hobbit. He has terrible handwriting, by the way. Almost, it's illegible. It's terrible. But anyway, I've got that. So a lot of stuff stolen and collected over the years. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Graham. And I would love to go on forever, but as you know, our time is up.
I understand. Well, thanks very much for coming. I hope you've enjoyed it. All right.
A big round of applause for Graham McTavish.
Thank you. Thank you.